You already know what time it is. Welcome back in to the NFL with AJL, episode 35. We are locked and loaded with a packed show on a Friday night. You guys could have been anywhere else in the world, chose any other sports podcast, but you locked in with me here on the show. As always, please make sure to like wherever you're viewing the stream at. Subscribe on YouTube, share that stream, and the QR code that I always mention. Scan that for every bit of the NFL with AJL social media and podcast content. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your shows at the NFL with AJL on all social media platforms. Got a guest in the house tonight, but we've got a packed episode 35. Anthony Richardson and Brock Purdy are named QB1. Shannon Sharpe is joining First Take for a couple days a week, mainly during the NFL season, of course, with Stephen A. Smith. We're going to go through the 2023/2024 NFL season awards predictions, the awards that'll be coming out after the season's over. Nick Bosa still doesn't have a deal with the Niners, and the 2023 NFC North record predictions as well. Absolutely packed show. Guy that has been a bro for a long time. It's definitely not his first time on the show. The Facebook felon, Germ from Stuff About Sports. What's good, dog? You already know it's good to have you in.
Man, I'm loving the jazz hop feel, your voice. I feel like I'm listening to the Quiet Storm or something, man. I really love it, man. I love being part of the show. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, bro, 100%. I remember you saying that last time when you were on the NFL with AJL, and I actually switched tonight, I think. I don't think I used this intro music last time. I was like, let me throw it back to the what off-season days. Funny thing, I bought this fucking song for like $7 on Audio Jungle, I think, and I'm like, I'm riding this for life, dude.
Yeah,
I don't care.
I love it. I love it. Don't ever change,
bro.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I might keep it permanently because the other one came off YouTube for free, so it is what it is. But let's go ahead and get into it, not waste anyone's time. Starting right from the top, Anthony Richardson has been named the starter, at least for now, for the 2023 season for the Indianapolis Colts. And I know you and I didn't specifically talk about preseason, but his outing was decent, right? We know he had some things to work on, only 13 college games. But are you buying or selling this move from Indy actually starting AR5 for week one?
I'm buying it. You don't draft a guy that high and then just let him, especially when you're in a situation like the Colts are. Right. It's like, just throw him in there, man. Like, what do you wait for? Every year we see this happen with some of these guys. Now, if you have like an Aaron Rodgers or you have like a good, let's say a top half quarterback or somewhere in the, you have a decent quarterback and you're ready to go. We're going to talk about this team later who did the complete opposite of what you're supposed to do in the San Francisco 49ers. That's if you want a cautionary tale, look at San Francisco. But when you're in a situation like the Colts are, throw them in there. What do you got to lose? Like, there's no expectations on the team this year anyway. Let them get your licks in. I'm a firm believer. Granddaddy Germ. There's no on the Colts. No, on him.
Yeah.
I think because people are already understanding what the Colts situation is, I don't think there's actually big expectations on him either. Just don't be complete garbage, which I don't think is possible. But, Granddaddy Germ always told me, you learn by doing, not by being coddled.
Yep.
Keeping him on the bench and letting him learn behind Gardner Minshew, if I just don't, you throw him out there. I'm buying it. Go get your licks now. The team is in a retooling, maybe a rebuild, but they're figuring some things out and let him just figure the NFL out. And like you said, he's only played a handful of college games. Just let him get some NFL experience. If he's going to be good, if he's going to be the guy you think you drafted, then it's not going to matter anyway. So just put him out there and let him figure it out. Because if he falls out on his face, you missed on the pick anyway. Just don't delay it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I like that approach. And we know that NFL's past the days of, Aaron Rodgers sitting for some time. And we've seen these other quarterbacks that have sat for maybe 2 or 3 years. And then they do come out and, they might have been good, might not have been. But now the NFL today is, hey, you're getting thrown in there. Like some people used to say 2 seasons. Now it's possibly 2 months. Now it's really 5 or 6 games. What is kind of the standard for a rookie quarterback in the NFL? Because we see, Justin Fields, who I am a fan of, some people are possibly already calling for his job. And you've seen different things shake out with these rookie quarterbacks, but no doubt about it, we're in the league of you have to learn by doing it. Unfortunately, the only thing that I'm buying from this move, Germ, is really the confidence of Shane Steichen in Anthony Richardson due to Shane Steichen's resume. Of course, he's got the toolage with Justin Herbert. Look at what he just did with Jalen Hurts. That's been really the whole mantra of why this is a good hire for Indy. And I do think it was a great hire back when the news broke, a few months ago. But he hasn't shown enough, I feel like, just yet. I know it's just one preseason game under his belt. And you're right there on the take of, hey, that's the reason why you should put him in. Let's actually let him learn from doing, because yes, as much much as Gardner Minshew might be a veteran in this league, he's not the face of the franchise. Sam Ehlinger, arguably maybe shouldn't have been picked coming out of Texas. Yeah, he was a good athlete and a good quarterback at the school, but when the time, came for him on the field with Indy, it really wasn't anything to be desired. So maybe, or not even maybe, there's not really anyone in that quarterback room for him to look up to, and it is a rookie head coach. He's just pushing him out there. But again, I am going to sell rather the fact of AR being ready to start and really leading this team to maybe even 7 or 8 wins. I'm happy for Anthony Richardson. I'm very excited for him. When the buzz started coming up in the NFL draft, it was, kind of like the Kyle Pitts hype, but it took a minute to build up there. People weren't even really talking about him going into the draft. Nonetheless, though, it is going to be interesting to see how he shakes out. We know his build, we know his speed, we know all of the raw traits he has, and maybe none other than a better guy of Shane Steichen to work that toolage for him. But now let's do a little record prediction. Doesn't have to be anything serious, but with Anthony Richardson as a starter, let's just do it in a vacuum, I guess. And let's say he starts all 17. How do you see things playing out for the Colts, Germ?
At the end of the day, they still have no offensive line. Questions on defense. Jonathan Taylor's back, but are you going to trust a disgruntled star who begrudgingly re-signed with the team he was actively trying to leave a few weeks ago?
A lot of shit going on there.
Now, the benefit is weak schedule, and they're in the AFC South.
Right.
But even still, if I'm the Colts, 7 wins is a good starting point for me in this new era. Mm-hmm. You have to think Lions, maybe not think, another team that just kind of got hot out of the gate. Think, hey, this is going to take 2 or 3 years of figuring it out. But you look at the Lions, slow and steady progress until now it's real. So if
Bengals
it's Bengals, another good example. Now, obviously,
Joe Burrow, kind of anomaly, but
but still,
turn that shit around quick.
It wasn't just Joe Burrow. They had to draft properly. They had to kind of figure it out, and then now here you are. So I think the Lions are the perfect parallel or the perfect template that the Colts should probably look at. Yeah. Shane Steichen is the guy. Yeah. Then let him have 2 or 3 losing seasons if that's what it takes.
Right.
But if you win 1 extra game every year, that's progress. Let them do that. So 6-7 wins is probably where I would comfortably put the Colts right now.
Hear that, man. Absolutely. And you mentioned how they don't have an O-line, and that's really unfortunate too, because we know, the Quentin Nelsons of the world and the other linemen that were able to surround him. And when Jonathan Taylor was having that 1,800-yard, 18-touchdown year, we saw that the Colts for a while was one of the better lines in the league, and then you do see it taper off. They were second in the league last year with sacks given up at 60, right there with the Rams that had 59, the Bears had 59, and then, of course, the Broncos led the league with 63 sacks. Russell Wilson was under duress all year. When I originally predicted the AFC South a few months back on the show, when I wrote out the record predictions, I predicted 6-11. And I don't remember my exact mindset of, okay, is Anthony Richardson going to jump in, after the bye week? Where does it kind of necessarily shake out? But just went through it again today. 5-5 at home, 0-7 on the road. So I'm going to have them going 5-12 overall, projected at 6.5 wins. And they do have the 4th easiest schedule in the league, but it's a lot to really wonder about with Anthony Richardson at that position. Will he really start all 17? How much time is he actually going to see? Is there a baseline for, if he's, of course, absolutely bombing it, when is he going to get pulled? When does Minshew kind of start to get considered? And it is the 4th, easiest schedule, like I was mentioning, but you still look at the teams that they are playing, knowing that they might not necessarily match up well with everybody that they're going to play out there. So it really could be some more to be desired. Sports PSP, I saw your comment, popped it up on the screen. So give us a shot. Appreciate you guys commenting as well. It definitely is a developmental process. They do like what Anthony Richardson shown them in practice and more. Eustace, what's good, man? Get at me in the email and DM me on IG. I definitely want to help you out with the podcast. I know you've been chasing me there for a second. They better get Anthony Richardson an O-line, or else he'll end up like Andrew Luck. Damn. And I think we just might leave it on that, because this is a one-liner, very true. You don't want to see that happen, right? I mean, Andrew Luck, former number 1 overall pick, great prospect. Anthony Richardson, great prospect. Eustace, I definitely want to get a podcast with you, bro. Y'all get in the comments, though, like you have been on the show. Appreciate it. Let us know what you think of Anthony Richardson being named the starter. He is QB1 for the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm moving on here, as we did have the rumors, of course, of Stephen A. Not even rumors. Stephen A. said it on his own show, the Stephen A. Smith Show. Actually, a good podcast. I know Stephen A.'s not the greatest talking head for First Take and ESPN, but I've been catching myself returning to it. Check it out on YouTube if you guys haven't. Definitely a different side of Stephen A. I feel like a little comedy in there. But he said it on his show. The big dogs know that I want Shannon Sharpe at ESPN. They know that I want him on First Take, and I was all here for it. I'm like, let's go. Shannon Sharpe is arguably the hottest commodity in broadcasting right now, really catapulting from Skip and Shannon. But now he's going to be joining Stephen A. for 2 shows a week on First Take. I think it said Monday and Tuesdays primarily during the NFL season. So scale of 1 to 10, man, how legendary is this pairing going to possibly be?
I mean, the 10 plus 10 plus 10. This is, I mean, even during the undisputed time and the evolutions of First Take since Skip left,
Right.
Shannon Sharpe's success is almost unprecedented, becoming a star, a former player who is one of the now preliminary voices in sports media. So he does it very well. I think it's going to be excellent for First Take.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about if they're going to let them two. If they're going to be successful, what they need to do is whenever he's on the show, make that show undisputed, which means Molly, shut up. JJ Redick or whoever, Kendrick Perkins or whoever else they have, Ryan Clark,
KP.
whoever, Dan Orlovsky, whoever's up there, shut up.
Yeah.
Tee up the question
Yep.
and get out of the way. That's all I want you to do.
Let them go. That's why Undisputed was so great.
ESPN, if there's a way to pay Disney for no commercials, figure it out, because that's what we want.
This has to be the revival.
Just if we're only getting this for 17 weeks, he's sliding into the old Michael Irvin spot. Plus, they're going to give us Tuesdays. Then let them go at it. I want it to be, that's the I loved Undisputed as a show. I'm a big fan of Skip Bayless. I love Shannon Sharpe.
Yeah.
Quick story on Stephen A. I met him once.
Really?
At a CVS in New Jersey, where I'm from.
Okay. He's from out there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's from New York, but he lived the NFL studios, ESPN studios at the time, and he covered Philly for a long time. So he was always in and out. He had a residence in Jersey in the next town over. I happened to be at a CVS late, 11:30 at night.
Right place, right time, baby.
Yeah. I walk in. I believe my wife was pregnant and she needed something. So after work, I stopped in there. Yeah. But I walk in and I'm the only guy in there, and I see this tall person just kind of pacing. And I'm walking around and I hear him. I'm like, man, that guy sounds like Stephen A. Smith. And I kind of look around the corner and it's Stephen A. Smith on his Bluetooth. And so I was like,
of course.
I was like, oh my God.
What year? What year was this?
Man, oh my God. I just got
you said Bluetooth, so I'm like, hold on.
Yeah. Oh no, it was too. It was one of the, it was like he had the old Jabra, Bluetooth.
Looked like he was on a damn call session.
I had just gotten out of the military, so it had to be like 2011, 2010, 12, somewhere in there. Anyway, I'm walking. I'm like, I got to figure out a way to meet him at an intersection, and because I don't want to run up on him. I'm not a groupie.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, let me just act like I'm shopping and kind of see where he's going. But as I got closer, I realized he was arguing with a female. Over some something. It was something. He wasn't happy. And I was like, nah, I can't do it. So I was like, forget it. So I walked to the self-checkout. He's by the pharmacy waiting for something. And these two guys walk in, and as soon as they hit the door, oh my God, it's Stephen A. Smith. And I was like, damn. So I'm at the self-checkout.
Not as much it's
right. Well, no, I saw him and I could tell on his face. I was like, man, that was the wrong move. I'm glad I didn't do that.
Right. He's like, I'm just out here.
Yeah. And I get to the self-checkout and I'm checking my stuff out, and I feel these long fingers wrap around my shoulder. And I turn and it's him, and he's tall. I was shocked at how tall he was. And he said, and in that smooth Stephen A. voice, he said, hey, brother, man, appreciate you. I know you see me back there, and I appreciate you not walking up on me like those two idiots over there. I was like,
hell yeah. That sounds so genuine.
Yeah. And he shook my hand, and I say, hey, man, you out here, you just trying to get with you. It's 11:30. I know you busy, and I didn't want to bother you, brother. So, and he's like, nah, I appreciate that.
Jamal is my brother.
Yeah. He dapped me up, and that was it, man. I was super happy.
That's fine.
So, yeah, man. Yeah.
Hey, Stephen A., hope you see this, man. You got a damn legendary partner coming on for sure. Sports PSP, I see your comment there. We will definitely give you our take on that. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I'd love to sound off on that. Right there with you, bro. I'm on 10 for this one. And I know the first take Stephen A., kind of like I was saying with his podcast, is much different. The first take Stephen A. is different than his podcast performances, but Shannon's knowledge, the energy, I think it's really going to complement Stephen A.'s knowledge and energy and personality and eloquence, just like Shannon Sharpe can have very well. And I think just the segments are going to be really undeniable, and the pairing of these guys is really going to be great. And like we said, Shannon Sharpe is one of the hottest commodities out there. I mean, it is really a major thing for ESPN to be able to pull him in. You talked about, no commercials. You talked about pitch them the questions and just let it go. And really what you hear you saying is highlight Shannon Sharpe if you're only going to get him Mondays and Tuesdays. And really ESPN could view this as, shit, this can maybe be a revival. Like, I think the Pat McAfee show, great move, right? I also think it's no irony that basically Shannon, if you think about it a certain way, replaced Skip on First Take, who used to be with Stephen A. And he just left Skip from Undisputed to go, team up with ESPN. Before we get into the next little part of this, I want to get to what PSP said. Thoughts on the reports of Skip not wanting Nick Wright on Undisputed? Jerm, I'll let you take that one first.
Yeah, excellent move. Nick Wright is not good. Period. He's awful. I do not like. He has
like
no.
What's right with Nick Wright? I'm not a fan of First Things First.
He has no charisma. He comes off as, and
Very
this
true.
is
Unless he's on Cowherd's show.
and he comes off as pretentious and annoying, which is not a good combo for a sports talk debate show. When you have Skip Bayless, if it was Nick Wright and somebody else like Shannon, that would probably be a good show. Yeah. Skip knows that he is annoying to the viewers. This is why he's been successful for 20 years. Skip is a genius. He knows what he's doing. Guys like him, guys like Cowherd know that there is money in being negative and money in being wrong.
There's money in clicks at the end of the day too. And
you can't,
that can kind of be edgy.
Skip already is the unlikable one. He knows it and he plays it well. You cannot have another person who is not likable on that show, because then the show would not be successful. It's successful because everybody loves Shannon.
Oh, of course.
And they're opposite. Nick Wright is too similar to Skip in perception. Then so I understand. At the end of the day, there is nobody that can replace Shannon on FS1's current roster.
Nope.
So if maybe you try to go get
Joy
Michael
Taylor, and she's already got a show. You know what I mean?
Right. Emmanuel Acho. Like who do you would have to bring in the Michael Irvin. You would have to bring in, and now they're doing it. They're going to basically do the First Take thing where they kind of rotate panels. I'm assuming they're going to do that until they find somebody that can permanently sit in that chair.
Right. Yeah. Skip not wanting Nick Wright on Undisputed. And I'm right there with him. I just don't think it would be a good pairing, because like you said, Skip, he's the hateable guy. He can say some very, senseless comments at times. We saw what he did with Shannon. We saw the downfall of the show. And in my opinion, Nick Wright doesn't really take shit from anybody. He'll stand on his comments. Like, it would be, I feel like, a lot of real pushing back from Nick Wright versus Skip and Shannon. Like, they would get to going back and forth, and then like Shannon would crack a joke and laugh and be like, that's what you do, and start calling him Skip and all that. And it would just kind of bring the comedy into the show, and it showed the real synergy of the two of them. And I don't think that would be there. With Nick Wright actually joining Skip, I don't think I would like that pairing at all. They do feel similar, but also that difference of, I don't think Nick Wright would really be there for the type of delivery and the type of just, I guess, cadence and style that Skip has. And I have respect for both of them, no doubt.
They have a chemistry. Shannon and Skip had a real chemistry.
They did.
Now, I'll give you a guy that should replace, and I don't think it'll ever happen because these two have real beef. Imagine for a second, if you will, Skip Bayless and Jaylon Rose on Undisputed.
Ooh.
After their explosive personal blow up on, I think it was First Take at the time. It might have been Cold Pizza. I can't remember how long ago it was. But Jaylon Rose would be excellent to replace, because Jaylon Rose is a people guy too. People love Jaylon Rose.
Real quick, what happened with them?
So there's a clip. It's a famous clip. I cannot remember what they were arguing about, but it was one of those things. It was Skip's favorite things. You're not as great as this. And Jalen's like, you never played the game. And it's, Skip's like, Kobe dropped 81 on you, and you were the worst player in the Fab Five. Like, it was like a lot of personal, player versus reporter type, and it just got taken too far. The clip is online. And then they actually, I remember watching it live. Like, I was a kid.
Sounds like Skip hasn't changed much.
Not much, but
drove off Shannon.
But hey, listen, Skip's been doing it for 20. He's the constant. Like, it works. Right. And unfortunately for him, there's a lifespan for him. Like, once he wears it out, now you got to find somebody else. But I would love to see them try to get Jaylon Rose, who's no longer employed with ESPN. He's a free agent. See if he can come on Undisputed.
Right, absolutely. I feel like we might both be in agreement on this. Who you think the real winner of this move is. And I didn't skip that second part of the segment. I just felt like it kind of tied in better with here. Who do you think the real winner of this move is? Stephen A., ESPN, or Shannon Sharpe?
ESPN. Shannon Sharpe doesn't need
Rightfully.
ESPN.
Right.
Shannon,
ESPN needs
yeah,
Shannon.
ESPN needs Shannon.
Like a motherfucker.
Stephen A. Smith doesn't need Shannon. He's obviously been doing it successfully.
Right.
And Stephen A. really doesn't need ESPN. He's the
Right.
biggest. He is the top. He is the LeBron James of
Yes.
sports media.
Yes.
He could go anywhere and be successful.
Yes.
So the big winner is ESPN. You said earlier, it was a good move for ESPN to get Pat McAfee.
Dude, Pat McAfee and Shannon Sharpe in the offseason for ESPN? Shoot. Okay.
So that's a great move for ESPN. It's a terrible move for Pat McAfee, in my opinion. When I read that Pat McAfee was going to take the afternoon slot, I said, man, this guy sold out.
Yeah.
His show is going to be completely different than what we are expecting. It's going to be watered down. It's not going to be authentic. He has to fit into the ESPN mold. That's not what got you there, man. So I'd much rather them have done a different show with him. And maybe he had time to still do his show, but I am very cautious on how Disney Pat McAfee is going to come across, because they tried this with Barstool and it lasted all but 3 days. You can't take something and change it. When ESPN signed Barstool, they are, well, not all of Barstool, but they had PFT and Big Cat.
Yeah.
They were only there for 3 days. They didn't even get they had one show, and they just you couldn't do it. Yeah. And I'm fearful of that for Pat McAfee. Now, Pat McAfee, if anybody can pull it off, it's him. He's a genius.
Yeah.
But I don't like that they're just taking his show and trying to force it into a Disney template. And I'm kind of worried. I'm worried that the show's going to change too much. That's all.
Right, absolutely. A lot of people have been talking about that. I actually have a lot of faith in Pat McAfee, at least to get his, feet under him for ESPN, because, he clearly did it for the bigger platform, of course, and it's not even that Pat needed ESPN. He wanted to, of course, team up with them and really help both of them springboard, because, you can argue ESPN just signed two of the hottest broadcasting commodities in terms of sports talk in the world, possibly.
Agreed.
And the two guys were open to it. Shannon had just left Undisputed, and, Pat McAfee is up to something season. There was rumors of him possibly being able to broadcast, Monday night games, whatever the case was. Love the move nonetheless. I am afraid that it is going to change a little bit for sure. But I want to have faith. And like you said, Pat, great business guy. He really built a platform that I feel like all of us look up to. We started our shows, maybe not, because of Pat, but you look at his show and you're like, damn, it's nice. It's loose. You can do what you want. You can say what you want. Your background is great. Right there with you though. ESPN definitely won. I think we both hit the nail on the head for sure. Do you see this becoming a full-time thing? Because I'd like to think that the door is wide open for him at ESPN. Let's just be real, but what say you, dude?
Not a full-time thing on First Take. Shannon has a lot of, he has Club Shay Shay. He has a lot of outside ventures. And so, no, I don't see First Take being a full-time thing, but I do see Shannon Sharpe being a regular, especially during football season. Maybe he'll show up, he'll do the Peyton Manning, Eli Monday night broadcast, and maybe he'll come in for, some other type of football special that they have going on. But in terms of being I don't think he'll ever be a full-time employee of ESPN. I just think, he'll come in and do First Take and then maybe one or two extra things throughout the course of the season. I don't see him joining a broadcast booth. I don't see him doing anything. I don't see him showing up on SportsCenter and things of that nature.
Yeah, and maybe I posed a question wrong. I don't see him doing any of that either. I guess a better thing to say was, could you see it going from Mondays and Tuesdays to Monday through Fridays? Basically, not a duplication of Undisputed, but he's like Stephen A's right-hand man on the program. But I like your answer previously, though. I see why you went there, because no, he's not. Please don't go to a booth, Shannon. I'm sure you crush it with commentary, but you deserve to be on camera.
Monday through Friday, probably for the same reasons. No, I think he has a lot of outside things that he's probably going to do. So if that was the case, if that was even a thing to talk about, then they would have just waited till he could become Monday through Friday. You know what I mean? Or he would have just been Monday through Friday. So you never know. Maybe something changes and maybe he does. But as of right now, I don't see, because he has so much other stuff going on, I don't see him doing it Monday through Friday, especially after doing it for so many years at FS1. He's probably ready to do other things now.
Right. He said he definitely enjoyed not having to get up so early. And I'm not even pretty sure. I know that Club Shay Shay started after, of course, Undisputed and everything took off very quick. The guests have been legendary. I think it depends on if Shannon wants it to be, and I totally hear you. A lot of outside ventures. We know he's a businessman. Life off of the field. He's really doing big things. And like I said, I'd like to believe that the door is wide open at ESPN for him because let's be real, ESPN needs Shannon. If Shannon wanted the full-time spot on First Take, I could see that happening, of course. But the big X factor is if Shannon Sharpe would actually want that to be a thing. But nonetheless, I'm happy as hell to see a pairing like this. Of course, Sports PSP. We'll never forget Club Shay Shay. I'm very excited to see a pairing like this, man. We knew there were the rumors about it. I saw Stephen A. talking about it on the show. But then when my buddy, shout out Michael Darby, one of the first times he's not watching the show live tonight, he let me know about it, and I was like, boom. Got to stick it on the lineup. Almost forgot to put it on the lineup, but y'all get in the comments as you have been. Let us know what you think about TV's favorite uncle, Shannon Sharpe, joining Stephen A. Smith on First Take. And let's let the predictions run wild, man, as we're getting into the 2023/2024 NFL awards predictions. I hate that they do the awards. What is it? Right before the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
That's when they do it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just people like when they talk about, is it 2023? Is it 2024? Whatever. The season that's coming up, we're going to predict MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Comeback Player, Offensive and Defensive Rookies, the whole nine. We'll start with the hottest one from the top, Germ. Who do you got winning MVP going into this year?
Buddy, you know who I have winning MVP.
I do, honestly.
His name is Josh Allen, and he plays for my Buffalo Bills. And the reason is simple. I firmly believe in it's his turn methodology when it comes to MVP.
Oh, 100%.
He's just been too great for too long. And I know last year he had an uptick in turnovers, but honestly, if you look at the advanced analytics, Josh Allen, as a single player, was responsible for 87% of the Buffalo Bills offense in terms of touchdowns and yards. Dog,
Lord.
Let me tell you, if that's not an MVP, I don't know what it is. The problem is postseason lack of success.
Right.
So they need to get over that hump. That will be my caveat. Josh Allen obviously can play like an MVP, but when I look at the top quarterbacks, it's hard to argue against Patrick Mahomes' greatness. It's hard to argue against Joe Burrow. But I do believe if the Bills I think the Bills, a lot was going on for them last year. If you wanted to give them a little bit of an excuse, Micah Hyde was missing all year. Von Miller was basically missing most of the year. Obviously, the DeMar Hamlin, there was a lot going on. Everybody's healthy now. Offensive line is better. We have two tight ends that we've been trying to get for the last 3 years. And it seems like we have a dynamic back in James Cook. So I think
very happy for him. I hope he really bursts out this year. He's such a good player at Georgia.
Having Dalton Kincaid, that second tight end, the Bills have been trying to do this two tight end set, and I do believe the two tight end set is probably when you got that right, your offense goes to another level. When you think about what Josh Allen is capable of doing, that's scary. That's monster numbers because he was doing it without all that. So when I look at that, I just believe it's his turn, and I do believe the Bills are going to have a good season. And so I'm going to pick Josh Allen here.
Hey man, no complaints about that at all. I would totally be on board with you to say that Josh Allen could definitely win the MVP this year. My MVP prediction, a lot like you said, it is a big quarterback award. It's kind of a matter of whose turn is it type of thing, unless you're just going on legendary runs like Mahomes has lately. I'm going to take Joe Burrow as MVP this year. I do believe firmly it is his turn. We saw what he was able to do, taking the team to the Super Bowl, taking them to the AFC title game. The season after, and ultimately is just really securing that number 2, number 3 spot, that people are talking about him in. Second best quarterback in the league for me, for sure. I've got Josh Allen, of course, right behind him. I'm not remembering all of the top 10 off there, but we know Josh, we know Joe, we know Patrick are all in some of the great conversations. Offensive Player of the Year, Germ, who you got?
This was tough for me, but I went with Christian McCaffrey for no other reason. Other than I don't know what the Niners are doing at quarterback, so I can't imagine that the team is going to be very good, because that's really what this award is like. You have to be a good offensive player on one of the better teams in the league. So I will go with Christian McCaffrey because I think he's going to be a major bell cow, especially with the question marks at the quarterback position for them. And their defense is going to be good enough for them to win a lot of games. So I think we'll see a lot of good Christian McCaffrey highlights this year.
I can definitely agree with you there. This was my Offensive Player of the Year pick 2 years ago. It didn't happen. I can't remember who won Offensive Player of the Year that year, but I'm going to go Tyreek Hill this year, a guy who was definitely on pace for a major season before Tua got banged up, still had 1,800 yards receiving, one of the biggest seasons we've ever seen out of a wide receiver. He said on his podcast and on some of his streams that he's going to go for 2,000 yards before he leaves this league, retires after the 10 years, gets into the gaming venture and all. And I really like Tyreek Hill's game. He's one of the few in the league that you miss a tackle, it's a touchdown. He catches it on, a screen, it's a touchdown. He is a walking one-play touchdown, and I'd like to believe that Tua is going to be a lot more healthy. I was very impressed with Mike McDaniel. We know the offensive weapons that they have. And with Jaylon Waddle on the other side of you, it's really just kind of pick your poison. Which DB is going to get burnt, which receiver is going to be open. I think that's going to be Tyreek Hill more times than not. Defensive Player of the Year.
Cooper Kupp won it 2 years ago. I am going with
legendary season.
Yes. I'm gonna go with TJ Watt. Simply back to back. Yes, okay. I do. I just think he's amazing. I was gonna pick between him and Myles Garrett. I just think the Steelers are gonna have a better season than the Browns. So I'm gonna go with TJ Watt.
TJ Watt, or excuse me, that was Nick Bosa that won it last year. I knew it wasn't TJ, but I know what you were talking about, winning 2 of the last 3. Now, nothing wrong with that. We've seen that happen, with Aaron Donald, of course, of recent years. I feel like this pick here for me is a matter of it is your turn. Fine. Defensive Rookie of the Year when he came into the league, has placed second in Defensive Player of the Year, not only his rookie year, but last year as well. The man probably set to receive one of the biggest bags as a defensive player. And Jerry Jones said, we need the money for him. Yes, I gave it away. It's Micah Parsons. Back-to-back seasons as a rookie and a sophomore in this league with double-digit sacks. Moving him into the edge position has been absolutely insane. And I don't see how Micah Parsons won't be able to shine, continue to play at a high level this year. Barring an injury, it could go quite a few ways. But I think when you come second in Defensive Player of the Year voting at a very young age, back-to-back years, the voters see that. And I think it is finally time for Micah Parsons to get that coveted award. And he's probably going to have a few of them by the time he leaves this league. This one could be a lock. It's all but in his pocket and handed to him at this point. Possibly comeback Player of the Year, Jerm.
I mean, you can't come back anymore than from death, right? Yeah, like it's literally. Like you there's nothing you can come back from that's bigger than death. So yes, Damar Hamlin, all he has to do is play a full season. He doesn't even have to play good.
He probably don't even have to play a full season.
He doesn't have to play a game.
Games in,
he could play the week 1 and retire, and he would still win this award.
In retirement, the first player ever to get an award of retirement.
He's the first player to die and come back and play too. So listen, it's Damar Hamlin's period. As long as he plays a game, he will be comeback Player of the Year, 100%. Yeah. There's nothing. Again. Who would be in the running for it? They would have to do something they would have to carry a team to an undefeated season. It would have to be something ridiculous. Like Matt Stafford would have to come and throw 50 touchdowns and 0 interceptions or something like that. You know what I mean?
It would have to be ridiculous.
It would have to be ridiculous. Other than something like that, then no, it's Damar Hamlin. Just lock it. They might as well just give it to him now.
100% right there with you. I'll play a little devil's advocate because I'm sure everyone would guess that, and I had him on here as well, but I even put ... Or I'm going to go Russell Wilson. I'm one of the few people that actually believes in Russ and Sean Payton and what they're going to do. I believe Russ could firmly return to that, 35 touchdown, maybe 10-pick quarterback that he once was. Some people think he's absolutely washed, completely done, but I believe in what the Broncos have done. Obviously, I witnessed firsthand what Sean Payton did for my franchise, bringing us back out, and I think he sees a little bit of similarity. Hey, this is not a job that a lot of people wanted. He trashed the previous coach, of course, kind of reneged on that. Not really Sean Payton-like, but we'll see how the coaching plays out. I will say, that motherfucker looks weird in some Denver Broncos orange. He did not look like I thought he was going to, bro.
It's strange. It's odd. It's odd.
I was like, bro, just go ahead. Get the black visor on with the Florida Lee and then rock the Broncos jacket. You look a little better with the black and orange. You know what I mean?
Or maybe change the Broncos color to black and gold. I don't know. Figure it out. Yeah, figure it out. But it looks weird. It does look weird.
It was very, very weird. But I'm going to course Damar Hamlin, but I think Russell Wilson could have a good case for it as well. Speaking of a coach of the year,
bro, unofficial favorite team of Stuff About Sports of the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell. Please, I mean, he should have won it last year. I don't even know how
Dable got it rightfully so, but I see what you mean also.
Yeah,
His
like,
revival of Danny Dimes, I think, is what sealed it for him.
I got you, but just what Dan Campbell has just been able to do with the Detroit Lions.
Right.
You know what
Arguably
I'm
the worst
saying?
franchise of the
I,
last 20 years.
I mean, geez,
They
it's
haven't
just
won a
been
division in 20 years.
and that's going to change this year. Book it. So
He said book it.
Dan Campbell is, for me, if the Lions are the second half, not the 1-6 start, but the rest of the games, I tend to believe that's that version of the Lions that we're going to get from here on forward. If the players can just stop getting suspended for gambling, and actually start the season correctly. Dan Campbell, to me, it was down to Dan Campbell and Pete Carroll for me, but I went with Dan Campbell because I'm a big believer in the Lions and what he's doing for them.
I like it, man. Dan Campbell's definitely got some great energy. You do want to talk about him, taking a hell of a job, turning it around like crazy, having to, mingle with Jared Goff, and especially what Goff has been in Detroit, I think is very remarkable. Even I thought he was going to go there to melt. I'm actually going to turn right back around with another Broncos person. I'm losing my words here. I'm going to go Sean Payton as coach of the year. I really think he's got what it takes to, work with Russell Wilson. I talked about the offseason, really everything in the last comeback player of the year. I've seen what Sean's done personally. Maybe it's a little unfair to give it to him because, he did have the 1 year in retirement. The coaching was so bad. So it's like, okay, what really is the standard here? We feel like everyone knows Sean's going to win at least 7 or 8 games. It's not going to be 5 or definitely less than 5 just from the tenure that Sean Payton's had. He's not a rookie coach. Yes, he is dealing with more of a different system, but I believe in his smarts for sure. Another one I'd possibly say is Robert Saleh as well. If the Jets really have a great year, and of course a lot of that will be because of that defense, because of Aaron Rodgers, bringing in Dalvin Cook. I absolutely love the signing, but Sean Payton will be my firm pick. But if Rob does come in with it, if Dan Campbell comes in with it, even Pete Carroll is still one of the better coaches in the league for sure. Now let's talk about these rookies before we get out of here into a break and then get into Brock Purdy, offensive rookie of the year, which I want to say Brock won that, didn't he?
He did
Last year, yeah,
sure did.
Rightfully so. So
after
offensive rookie of the year this year,
8 amazing games. I'm gonna go Bryce Young. I think I know people have jokes about his height and all that stuff, but I think he has good weapons. He's in a really good system down there to showcase his talent. I like Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit. I like him too. I just, that offense is amazing. So I put Bryce Young / Jahmyr Gibbs. It was hard for me to pick the two, but I think Bryce Young as the number 1 pick is probably going to get the things he does will get, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll get embellished more. His success will get embellished more, even if it's average, because of being the number 1 pick. So I went with Bryce Young.
He's naturally going to have more eyes on him for sure. No, I love the pick, man, no doubt. I'm actually going to go Bijan Robinson for the Falcons. I think he was a top player. I want to say when I did my top 10 overall players in the draft, I want to say Bijan was in the 5 to 8 range for me, but rightfully so. I mean, we've seen him generational prospect. Did a lot at Texas. The Falcons were one of the better rushing teams in the league last year. I want to say second to the Chicago Bears because, of course, Justin Fields running for his life. But, the Falcons really have built an offensive line that's respectable, which is really rare to say. They have built a run game, which has come around over the last few years. That is very respectable, which is rare to say. They have a great offseason in terms of defense. I put it on the channel. They're going to have a top 10 defense, which you would probably never say about the Atlanta Falcons. And when you look at Bijan Robinson coming in, Arthur Smith clearly worked with Derrick Henry. I don't believe it's going to be a 1,800 yard, 2,000 yard season. But if Bijan comes out and rushes for 14 to 1,600 yards in his rookie year, how does he not win it? We saw Zeke win it when he led the league in rushing with 1,600, a little over 1,600 yards in his rookie year. Not the same running back, but clearly a guy who's going to get a lot of touches. And the Falcons were, first in rush yards per game. Excuse me, not first. I want to say they were top 3 in the following categories. It was rush yards per game, attempts per game, yards per carry, and EPA per rush yard or per rushing play or something like that. They were the tops of all of it, So that's why Bijan, I didn't like it as the pick. I would have loved to see Jalen Carter possibly, but nonetheless, that's who they took. Another honorable one would be Jordan Addison. I think he was the best receiver in the draft by far. He's going to lose a lot of looks to Jettas, no doubt about it. But he's clearly in line for him and Justin Jefferson maybe to be one of the best duos in the league. Defensive rookie of the year.
You just said it, Jalen Carter. I think in that Eagles defense. I watched his last preseason game. He seems like a monster, so I'm going to go with him.
Tossing him to the side. I had Nolan Smith on here as my honorable mention. I think he could take it away as well. I wish he was a little bigger in size for sure. I feel like I could feel like it could possibly be a lock for him. I'm going to go Will Anderson, though, for the Texans. I do think he was a top player in the draft, maybe the best player in the draft, clearly the best defensive lineman, defensive player, edge rusher. However you want to cut the pie, we know what Will Anderson brought to the table. Of course, the Texans made out with C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson, the first couple picks of the one of the better NFL drafts that we've seen in recent memory. But yeah, I'd go Will Anderson, definitely. I love the Jalen Carter pick. I'd even possibly have a Nolan Smith in there as well. We've seen some people maybe say Christian Gonzalez, but I'm pumped about the 2023 NFL season. Y'all get in the comments, get in the chat. Let us know what you think about the MVP, offensive player, defensive player, comeback player, coach of the year, offensive and defensive rookie of the years as well. This has been episode 35 of the NFL with AJL. I greatly appreciate everyone jumping in the show tonight. I'm live with Germ from Stuff About Sports, at Stuff About Sports on all social media platforms, at Give Us a Shot Network, the guys who really put it on for them. If you're looking for a real clean-cut podcast, awesome production, and loose, unscripted dialogue, you definitely got to check out Stuff About Sports. Germs has been on the show quite a few times, and he'll continue to stop back around. Please make sure to like, subscribe, share the stream wherever you're at, especially subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on all social media platforms. I'll drop the QR code on the screen. Scan that for every bit about the NFL with AJL social content, also podcast content. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your shows. And as always, never forget, we are sponsored by Buy and Sell with AJL for all your worldwide professional real estate needs, looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate. Make sure you get at them on social media at Buy and Sell with AJL. Drop your email in the comments if you want, or DM them on social media to get on their exclusive newsletter. And if you want to take advantage of some AI that they just implemented into their business. Enough with the ad reads, enough with the follow me stuff. Let's follow this topic here, as Brock Purdy apparently, according to Kyle Shanahan, would have to melt in practice to lose the QB1 job. So do you trust Brock Purdy to lead the Niners to the promised land, to be that very competitive team in the NFC? I know he's got a lot built around him, so it'd be kind of hard. He feels like maybe a Jimmy G duplicate. We've seen a smaller sample size, but maybe it was enough. Are you trusting Brock to really ride out all 17 and deliver on the expectations that everyone has for 49ers this year?
The short answer is no. And here's why. Because on my show and Stuff About Sports, and you've been on the show, and I believe you've heard me say this before, I need a 3-year sample size to see who you are.
Yeah.
Anybody,
quarterback position.
Especially anybody can have a hot summer.
Right.
It's anybody. So now that there's tape out on you, let's see, and you're coming off of an injury.
Mm-hmm.
I know Jimmy Garoppolo can take the 49ers to the Super Bowl because he's done it.
Right.
And
he
almost did it twice.
Mm-hmm.
You got to where you got to last year because of Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, that's nice. You won 7 games in a row to finish the season. You look at the schedule, didn't really beat anybody that impressive. Jimmy Garoppolo got you 8 of those wins that you had in them 13 games.
Yep.
So let's relax. Let's act like Jimmy G didn't basically put the 49ers in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And all you had to do is kind of keep your hand on the steering wheel. Now,
it was just like when Nick Foles came in for Wentz. Wentz got them to the 11-2 record and got them home field advantage.
Now, that's not to say what Brock Purdy did isn't impressive.
Right.
He looked good. Yes, he looked good. But I'm not going to sit there after 8 games and no real film on you. Right. You were Mr. Irrelevant for a reason.
Right.
Okay. So I highly doubt. Now, obviously, Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Russell Wilson, 3rd round. There's an anomaly. Could you be an anomaly? Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. You could be. Yeah. What I'm saying is it's going to take more than 8 games for you to prove that to me. So,
especially in a franchise like San Fran.
Exactly. So to answer your question, no, because I haven't seen enough from him yet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a tough thing to look at, because when I wish I was podcasting through last year, but I just kind of took the season off, enjoyed watching the game, watching you guys go at it. And I was like, I got to get back in with my boys. And as I saw everyone talking about Brock Purdy, I'm like, damn, this is actually really impressive. Like, you're talking about the dead last pick in the draft, Going all the way to the NFC Championship game, yes, you have an amazing offense built around you. Christian McCaffrey might have been the best offensive player in the league the way that they were rolling and using him, actually, The defense is clearly the best in the league, has been regarded as very elite, one of the best, if not top 2, top 3, if they can even fall below top 2 in terms of the defense in the league. But I can't deny what Brock Purdy did show us. Of course, like you said, little stats here, 67% completion, just under 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 picks, took 11 sacks, and had a 107 passer rating. I don't know if he was 8-1 in his 9 games, or if he might have been 7-1, not necessarily sure, but we know that the only loss, of course, was when they did get bounced out of the playoffs. Right now, I don't trust Brock to lead the Niners to the promised land, to that, even Super Bowl. And I know because of last year and him getting to the NFC Championship, a lot of people are going to want to put that hype behind him. But like you also said, Jeremy, you can't deny the fact that that was Jimmy G's team. Jimmy G had taken them to a Super Bowl. Was really, I want to say, a dropped pick by Javarius Ward or Jimmy Ward, if I'm not mistaken, on the Niners.
Jaquarius Tart.
Oh, yeah, Jaquiski Tart. Yes, God, I know his name because he was always snagging interceptions in Madden. I'm like, he's not as good in real life.
Yeah.
He dropped the pick from Matt Stafford, and like that really could have sent them to the Super Bowl twice. I think we're having a way different conversation about Jimmy G possibly and how it played out. And of course, we know, he missed the throw to Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. But back to Brock Purdy, trusting him for a whole 17. I mean, we're going to get into the record prediction as well. That'll kind of help it unfold. But trusting him for a whole 17, clearly he's shown enough to Shanahan that he can do that. He had the surgery. He's coming back healthy. I love to see all that. I love Brock Purdy's story. Absolutely love it. There's no way that you can, not want to lean into it. But I don't trust him to take them to a Super Bowl, to win a Super Bowl. And maybe I'm kind of crazy for even making this a topic, but this is the expectation of the Niners.
Yeah.
And you also have Bosa as well, one of your better players, if not your best player on the team, that you're kind of working through too. So, there's some things happening here, but nonetheless, Brock Purdy would have to melt in practice to lose the QB1 job, according to Kyle Shanahan. Now let's do a Niners record prediction, kind of like we did with the Colts at the beginning. Let's just do it in a vacuum. Let's say Brock Purdy is healthy and does play all 17 with the 15th hardest schedule in the league and projected at 11.5 wins. How do you have it playing out?
I have them winning 9 games. I do. They went 13 and whatever, but like I said, most of those were Jimmy G wins.
Yeah.
There's tape on Brock Purdy. I do believe there will be he's coming off of an injury. It's Kyle Shannon is supposed to be some quarterback whisperer. He doesn't even know what quarterback, he wasted 3 first-round picks on Trey Lance, and Trey Lance may not be the 3rd best quarterback on the team. And so I don't know what they're doing over there. Big question mark. But I have them taking a small step back this year. Trading Jimmy G will be the worst mistake of Kyle Shanahan's career, and it might cost him his job. I don't know. But I have them 9 or 10 games, I think. I think is probably where they'll be at.
I'm right there with you. Again, 15th hardest schedule in the league, so really middle of the pack, an average schedule, I guess, if you will. Projected at 11.5 wins. I predicted them going 10-7 overall, 6-2 at home, 4-5 on the road, and it's going to absolutely stay the same for me here. Did I say that right? Yes, I did. When I did the NFC West predictions just a few months back, had them going 10-7 because I really didn't know if it was going to be some of, Trey Lance, some of Brock Purdy. I wasn't really sure at the time. I wasn't super leaned in. So I'm like, okay, just based off of how this team is really shaking out in the offseason, and then, of course, at the time that I predicted it, what are they really going to do? So I'm going to have them going 10-7, slightly under that 11.5 wins. 9 games does maybe feel a little low, but hell, if they just lose on more for the 10 wins that I have predicted, then so be it, because a lot is going to ride on Brock Purdy, and for him to be the captain for all 17 games, can he make big throws in big moments? And yes, it does feel like he's a duplicate of Jimmy G, but we saw Jimmy for quite a few years, and his process and his progress rather as a player, where he got the franchise, was absolutely undeniable. Now, what does this say about Trey Lance, who he says is 100% healthy? You got reports of Sam Darnold really being on his heels for the QB2 job. Sam Darnold, Germ, really? For a guy that was picked 3rd overall, 3 first-round picks for him? And I know Trey Lance can't help that all of that was traded for him. He just wanted to go to the league. Yeah. What does this say about Trey Lance? So I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and I'm like, damn, is it really fair to bring up? But with Shanahan saying it's Purdy's, like, what does this really say about Trey?
I mean, it shows that he's not good. Like, he's not. It does it not? I mean, think about it. He's been there 3 years. He still. I mean, we just watched him in the preseason. He cannot process what is happening with the defense as the
Yeah.
play. It's weird. It's just a weird, I they looked at, who I thought the Niners were getting? They thought they were getting a Patrick Mahomes. They
Mm-hmm.
thought they saw a guy who was a gunslinger that could improvise and was
Yeah.
going to let his athleticism make the plays for him.
Yep.
The problem is
I call him
Patrick
an
Mahomes,
unpolished Josh Allen or Cam Newton. Honestly, it's
yes,
kind of how he played in college.
and they thought they were going to get that. And the problem is those guys know how to process the defense.
Yep.
They play with instinct. And I think maybe the kid's a little rattled. Maybe this situation if you watched the joint practices, if you've been following the joint practices between the Raiders and the Niners and then the preseason game, you said that was Jimmy G's team. There could be an argument that it's still Jimmy G's team. Everybody ran over to Jimmy G. Everybody loved Jimmy G.
Right.
The reports of last year, even when Brock Purdy, people were saying when Jimmy G, because he got hurt, that they wanted Jimmy G back. Like the players were very pro Jimmy G, and it was clear that Shanahan was anti Jimmy G.
For that locker room
for whatever people have jokes for Jimmy G. You can say whatever you want about Jimmy G. His efficiency rating, his win-loss record, the team's performance when he wasn't the starter versus when he was the starter up until Brock Purdy, you could not deny that Jimmy G was good for that team. And don't trust the analytics, don't trust the media, don't trust guys like us talking. Look at the players, look at the interaction. Like they were all about him. And so it says that Trey Lance just isn't who that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch thought he was. That's what it says to me.
Who we thought he was.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Dennis Allen.
Yeah. man, yeah. It's an interesting situation for Trey Lance because I liked him as a prospect. I knew he was very raw.
Dennis Green,
really
sorry.
Messed up. Yeah, no, you're good. That's why
Green,
I laughed.
sorry.
I was like, you said R.I.P. Dennis Allen because his job's coming up soon.
Yeah. That's your coach. My bad.
Yeah, no, it's okay, bro. It's fine. Yeah. But yeah, it's really interesting with Trey Lance because I liked him as a prospect. I personally think he's got great attributes. But he does have that difficulty of processing the game. And I can't say specifically that he's not good. I just can't go out on that one-liner and say that he's 2-2. Mm-hmm. I'm not even mimicking the record or talking I'm not using the record as a direct comparison, but he's literally been in 4 games,
Gotcha.
A little more than that, of course. Yeah.
But Mr. Irrelevant is beating him out for a job.
Right.
I mean, come on. Yeah.
Right. 100%. And here's what I'm getting into, right? So it's just clear whether he's not good. I think we know for a fact that he's not ready yet. Right. He's not ready to take the QB1 role. He's 2-2 as a starter. He's thrown 102 passes in this league, 55% completion, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, minimal college experience, as we know. So that doesn't necessarily set up for a player that is, going to take you far to the promised land, really hold up to these expectations, have, that the people that are actually faithful to the Bay do, folks in San Francisco, people in California actually watching this team, and they're expecting a lot because it was a haul. I mean, we literally had whole segments, and now we have whole segments about draft capital in trades. What did it go into? I'm not here for the whole, this pick turned into this, and now he's, a top 5 receiver. You don't know that until it happens. You give up picks because you see the player in front of you, and you want to go grab him. And honestly, my brain's just like, damn, I got to see he switched there, and then they picked them. Like, no. It's draft capital at the end of the day that they willingly gave up. Any of them could have turned into a bust. Any of them could have turned into a star. You still willingly gave up 3 first-round picks to go get Trey Lance. And I got to love John Lynch for what he's saying here, right? The GM of the team spoke highly of him as a player, from processing the game to growing as a player. And he's saying the right things, right? You're
supposed to.
Right. He's doing what he's supposed to. Legendary guy. Obviously a legendary franchise trying to create, this legendary run with this team. And he's done a great job building the team. I like Shanahan as the coach. I love the roster. I mean, one of the most complete. Feels like they got one or two of maybe everything, but Lance is coming off that ankle injury, but he said he's 100%. He said, quote, "The ankle does not bother me at all. I don't even think about it while I'm practicing. I don't think it's holding me back at all." So now for us to know that, and again, I get it. You haven't thrown a lot of passes, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks, minimal college experience, as we know. We understand that about Trey Lance, but the NFL, the more I cover this league, the more I do this show, the more I love doing this, the more I realize that it really does stand for not for long. It is a not for long league. And Trey Lance has not shown enough yet That's why the very last pick in the NFL draft that the Niners took has the QB1 job. I mean, if you're saying someone has to melt in practice, they've got it far and away, passing the test from flying colors, right? But to know that Sam Darnold could possibly beat him out as the backup, because right now it's, Brock 1, Trey 2, Sam 3. If Sam really gets the QB2 spot over Trey Lance, I think it's done. Yeah. I think that right there will really seal it. But I mean, we're talking about Sam Darnold. I don't care what he did with the Panthers early on. I understand it was like early in the season.
Undefeated, 3-0.
It is what it is. A rushing touchdowns. You can say nothing about Sam Darnold. He was up there, and rightfully so. He played all right, but then the schedule played out. We saw, I think, what Matt Rule at the time was doing, and overall, it was just a really rough outing. We know how we saw it goes with the Jets. We don't even need to go into that. And I just think this goes to show, and this actually kind of just hit me, Germ. We know what Jimmy G was. Biggest game manager out there, but he did it. Brock Purdy, he did it. Sam Darnold maybe is at that point to where all he can do is just game manage, because he's clearly not even a good quarterback, or even would say average. Like he's average to bad, usually bad in most occasions. If Trey Lance can't even get that down to beat out Sam Darnold in a very, very simple offense, I'm sure that maybe not a simple offense, but it's clear that what he requires from the quarterback is not a lot. And maybe he's trying to make it different for Lance, right? Because Lance is clearly crazier athlete than Jimmy G, than Brock Purdy, than Sam Darnold. But if he's not getting it, that's just a major, major, major red flag for me. And I think Niners fans should really be concerned about this possibly playing out. I know we're just talking about depth chart movement, but when you say that Purdy would have to melt, it's something's clearly happening there, to where it's not looking too too favorable, rather, for for Trey Lance. But nonetheless, y'all get in the comments, get in the chat, let us know what you think, as we're sticking with the Niners news here, because Nick Bosa still does not have a deal with the San Francisco 49ers. I'm fairly positive they're going to get it done. They know that this is important for them. He's one of the best players in the league. But the thing for me, again, still doesn't have a deal with the Niners. He reportedly wants to clear the Aaron Donald deal. I don't know if he wants just a little more than $95 million over 3 years. I don't know if he wants just a little more than $31.6 million a year on his deal. Would you pay Nick Bosa more than Aaron Donald?
Yeah, he's younger and he's better. Right now. I mean, it was just he's defensive player of the year last year. Who was defensive player of the year? Was it Aaron Donald or was it Nick Bosa? It was Nick Bosa. And he's younger. Yeah, I mean, and he yes, I would pay him. If there's very few players you pay, in terms of
rushers, lockdown corners.
Yep. What I say, and then blindside tackle. Shout out to Michael Orr. So
you better stop it.
Yeah, get your money, King. Hey, get your money, King. Don't let them
straight up. I talked about it on the last show.
Yeah,
get your justice,
get your money,
bro.
So yeah, pay him, man. Are you kidding me? Like this, when I saw this question, I said, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they paid him by the time we went on air.
Right.
Like, he will play week 1. They will not let this go into the season. Yeah. He will be there. I think the deal in terms of the money, I don't think they have a problem paying the money. I think they have a problem on how they're going to structure that contract.
Of course.
Because they have to have cap flexibility. So those are the salary cap gymnastics. So I'm sure they're going to see, they have to let some of these preseason games go because, now they have to cut people. They have to figure out who's doing what. So once all that is ironed out and they know who the team's going to be, then they will figure out the way to structure his contract that benefits everybody. So yeah, I have no issues. The Niners fans shouldn't be worried. Nick Bosa will be a Niner. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know Bosa will be a Niner as well. And I can tell as more paydays move through the NFL. And I'm not trying to be behind the times, right? Like we used to make fun of our parents for not texting, and now they do. And you have NFTs coming out, and it's like, hey, get your knowledge up because you don't want to be behind the curve, because things are advancing. And clearly the paydays in the NFL are advancing because, just as I look at it, I wouldn't want to pay him 31.6, 32 million, hell, maybe 35 million a year with the way that the market is going right now in the NFL. But he is trending in the direction, of course, that Aaron Donald was earlier in his career, minus missing the second year with the injury, but Aaron Donald's one of one. That's my thing. And I don't believe Bosa has shown to mimic that just yet. He is a great player, no doubt. I think it's a little unfair to say because we know that Aaron Donald just came off of injury, but the season before was absolutely great. We know he signed the deal, I think, after the 20.5 sack season, if I'm not mistaken. We know that clearly he's, arguably the second best defensive player of all time, as some people do say. He clearly is an absolute machine. But, and that might be an unfair comp, but I feel like I'd pay him between the $25 and $28 million range. I would pay him well, don't get me wrong, but of course his holdout is justified really due to the paydays of the current defensive players and when they sign their deals. NFL contracts are insane assets. They're ridiculously appreciating in value. And just kind of mentioning, the player salaries that we're up against. So Aaron Donald first, 31.7, TJ Watt second, 28 million. You got Joey Bosa, who struggles to stay healthy, signed a deal a few years ago for $27 million. We feel like that, Nick is better than his brother Joey. You got Myles Garrett, who signed the deal back in 2020 for $25 million. So you're talking about guys that signed for amounts a few years back. We've seen how paydays have gone up. So he's more than likely going to get that 30 to 32 or maybe even 33 a year. Again, does he want just how's he trying to clear the deal? Is it per year? Total, guaranteed? Because again, the more that this stuff goes on, the more that we figured out about guaranteed money and these clauses and things that actually get worked in because the money is so ridiculous. So scale of 1 to 10, though, because we know that they're loaded defensively. And yes, he is arguably their best player. Scale of 1 to 10, how imperative is it for San Francisco to get this done before week 1?
Probably 10, because you don't want a player like that. You don't want to go into the season with already you have question marks. The one thing you have that's constant is the defense. So you don't want to cause issues with that. Right. So you lock that up. Again, we talked about it earlier. I believe in cautionary tales. The Raiders, the Oakland Raiders, had this situation with, or not the Oakland Raiders, the Chicago Bears had this situation with Khalil Mack. They didn't want to pay him what the market dictated, and he left and he went to the Raiders, and then he ended up on the Chargers. So you cannot afford to miss out on a top 3 player at his position, at a position that affects the game solely. It's very rare that, other than a quarterback, there's not many positions that one person can control the outcome of a game. Yep. And pass rusher, defensive end, whatever, a guy like Nick Bosa is one of those guys. So yeah, you pay him, and I agree. It'll probably be 30, to 32, 33, somewhere in there. But that's the market, man. I know that we're saying that's ridiculous, but you list those guys. Yep. If you look at those guys, if who's at 29, did you say? Who's at 29?
TJ. Then Aaron's Nick at Bosa, 1 with 31.6. TJ is at 2 with 28 or 29.
Nick Bosa is better than Nick Bosa is better than TJ. Boom, 30 mil, easy. Get it done. Figure it out. That's all.
Do you really think Nick Bosa is better than TJ Watt?
Yeah, hell yeah.
How?
Hell yeah, bud.
You gotta be fucking with me right now.
Hell yeah, TJ's better. Hell yeah.
Bro. You're clouding, bro.
This week, I want you to poll your audience, and I will poll mine.
Okay, Nick that's Bosa, fair. I don't do polls usually, so I'm here for you.
Who are you drafting? You need to draft somebody, TJ or Nick Bosa. I guarantee you it'll be Nick Bosa.
Wait, hold on. I might have heard you incorrectly. Wait. I thought you said...
I said
wait,
whoever...
did you say Nick Bosa was better than TJ?
Yes.
I thought you said fucking Joey was better than TJ.
No.
My bad. I was like, you gotta be kidding, bro. Joey,
Hell no.
Hell no.
Joey should be giving some of that money back. That's how it should be.
Straight up. I would say Nick could definitely compete with TJ, no doubt. TJ's absolutely insane with the 22.5 sacks, couple years back. But scale of 1 to 10, how imperative is it for San Francisco to get this done before week 1? I'm going to go 8 out of 10. And the only reason is because they have great pass rushers all around him. Javon Hargrave just came over from Philadelphia. Now, yes, Bosa is arguably the best player on the team, let alone the defense. The defense is elite, the best in the league, no doubt. And like you said, you don't want to break that continuity. We know the deal's going to get done, but I think this is more of a question of, are they going to do it soon? Are they going to do it once they iron out the depth chart, make some cuts, get some money available, and then they're like, all right, let's make the haul. Let's do it. Shanahan, Lynch have said he's a special player. He's going to get what he deserves, no doubt. We know what Nick Bosa is. 18.5 sacks in your 4th year in the league is very, very remarkable. I always wonder where he'd be now if he didn't miss the 2nd year after having 9 sacks in his rookie year and, of course, going to the Super Bowl, with the San Francisco 49ers. And now to get into the last segment of the show before we finish out episode 35 of the NFL with AJL, we're going to hit these record predictions, last set of record predictions until we'll have it all out for the folks. And then I will build a preseason playoff bracket. That'll probably be a solo show, make it a little easier. We'll be able to go through that. But let's start from the top. I've got the Bears first, who have the 18th toughest schedule in the league. They're projected at 7.5 wins. Give me the Bears record prediction and maybe just a little takeaways about how you feel about them this year.
6-11. I'm not a believer. I don't think Justin Fields is any good. People were hyping up his preseason game when he had 100 whatever yards, but he had 3 screen passes, and it was 2 yards, 3 yards, and 2 yards that he had gained. One was the DJ Moore 60-yarder. He had a 40-yarder and like a 20-yarder in there. So
yeah, Khalil Herbert took it too.
I mean, I get that people want Justin Herbert to succeed or Justin Fields to succeed, but have you watched him play? I mean, he's not good. And again, maybe he can change my mind. I need the 3 years.
Looked good for sure.
Hasn't looked good, and this is the year for him. If he doesn't look
100%,
if he doesn't look markedly better than he did, then it's time to start looking somewhere else for a quarterback. If I'm the Chicago Bears,
I think he will take the leap this year.
Okay.
I love Justin Fields in college. He actually, sat at Georgia for a while. Kirby only wanted to use him in the run game, so he said, I'm going to go play at Ohio State, lit it up, got in the Heisman conversation, played a national championship. Bears straight up for him. The rest is history, right? I do believe Justin Fields has what it takes to actually get it done. We'll get into that here in just a second. But as far as a record prediction, I actually have them going 8-9 overall, so not anything great, but this feels just about right, in my opinion, for the Chicago Bears. 6-2 at home, 2-7 on the road. And their schedule is very simple when you take a look at it. Again, 18th toughest schedule. Yes, 18th. I thought that was 16. Projected at 7.5 wins, so I'm going to take that slight over there. I do have them being 3-9 going into that Week 13 bye, but the late bye week I really feel like could benefit them. And with them being such a young, very raw team, they're going to need that. I think they've got the capability with Justin Fields taking that leap this year to split in the division. And they've got some games against playoff teams, of course, only 5, which kind of does favor them. You got Minnesota twice, Tampa Bay, Chargers, and Kansas City. I got them going 2-3 in those games, but the major takeaway, for this NFC North team and the Chicago Bears is Justin Fields will and has to take the leap that we're all talking about. And I know he's capable of it. You look at the draft, the offseason, DJ Moore, we've seen the Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts' leap, and those are rare, but I do believe that Justin Fields can be in that rare category to get to that point this year. He doesn't have to throw, for 4,000 yards and, 30 touchdowns, but anything more marketably better than what you said, Germ, I'm 100% right there with you. And I think he shows plenty of those traits, like a Josh Allen, like a not Justin Herbert, like a Jalen Hurts with the build, with the, understanding of the game, but he's went through 2 head coaches. He hasn't really had great receivers out there to help him out. So it is going to be tough at times when you've got things like this playing out, no doubt. Horrible defense last year, fourth worst in the league, the entire NFC North. Actually, 3 of the 4 teams held the bottom 4 spots in the defensive rankings in terms of yards per game last year. But, you had both of the linebackers come in, Edwards and Edmonds. Tyreek Stevenson, the safety in the draft, I was a big fan of him. You brought in Yannick Ngakoue, who is still a solid player in this league. Their defensive lineman that they drafted overall, I think it's enough to turn it around to an 8-9 record. I'm not going to expect anything crazy because this could kind of be a battle of mid division, if we're being honest, And I'm going to also rank the divisions once I get it all predicted as well. But got the Bears going 8-9. I didn't expect them to get there when I looked at the, prediction, but I look at the schedule. I'd be realistic about what they've done. And I'm like, hey, I think this is really what they can do. On to the Green Bay Packers, 24th toughest schedule, projected at 7.5 wins.
Man, you're doing this in order from worst to first, bud. So the Packers, I have the 3rd place in this division. I have them at 8-9. The exact same record they had last year with Aaron Rodgers. I think they're crazy. I just think they're the same. They're Jordan, whatever they added to help their team outside of quarterback, the downgrade at quarterback evens out the team. So they'll be about the same. They'll look a little bit better. Hopefully the receivers won't be the 3rd worst or 2nd worst in drops this season.
Yeah.
I don't think Jordan Love has to be anything type of special. Just don't turn the ball over. I know it's cliche, but I don't think he has to go out there and be Aaron Rodgers. I think he just has to be a serviceable quarterback, and I think the team around him is good enough to, win some games. But I have them at 8-9 this year.
Feel that, man. I unfortunately have them going worse than that. I didn't
Mhm.
expect them to only get to this win total that I had. But again, you look at it, 24 toughest schedule projected at 7.5 wins. I hate to say it, but I've got the Packers going 5-12 this year. I don't know what
Oof.
Jordan Love is. I
Yeah.
don't know what Jordan Love is, and that's
I
my
got
thing.
you.
You're talking about, realistically, you're talking about Jordan Love, Christian Watson, Aaron Jones, and a defense that's here one day and gone the next in terms of just the history of Green Bay. Because let's be real, for the foreseeable future, if Jordan Love does turn into that guy, he's going to
Mhm.
have to deal with that style of defense that Aaron Rodgers loved one day and necessarily, didn't care for the next. I don't know what Jordan Love is. I've got them 4-4 at home. I've got them 1-8 on the road, so that's going to finish them at a 5-12 record. They're going to be 2-3 going into the Week 6 bye, so it's going to be very early. Maybe that benefits them. I'm more of a fan of a middle of the season to later in the season bye week, get healthy. We know a lot of injuries pile up at any point during the season, but when you get that chance to get healthy later on, it's definitely beneficial. I do have them being able to, at least because of the coaching of Matt LaFleur, being able to split the division, and maybe you would think that they've got more than 5 games in the tank.
Mhm.
Games against playoff teams, only 6. Minnesota twice, Kansas City, the Giants, Tampa Bay, and the Chargers. I've got them 2-4 in these games. And again, I don't know what to expect from Jordan Love. I really don't. I've seen things from he can't play all the way to he's the franchise guy for years to come. But he doesn't seem like a star. There's no it factor about him.
No.
There's no glaring traits or highlights, but there is plenty of praise from the GM, Christian Watson, David Bakhtiari, some of the team's, biggest faces, best players. But they don't match up well with a lot of these teams that are actually on their schedule. And when you just go and look through who they're actually going to be playing this year, don't see it shaking out well for them. I have them 5-12. I'll tell you how the division plays out at the end because I'm sure you're wondering where the Vikings and the Lions might be, but we're going to take it over to the Minnesota Vikings now, who have the 19th toughest schedule and are projected at 8.5 wins. How do you feel about them, Germ?
Man, we're doing this in order. I have them second in division at 9-8. The general manager already said they're going into a competitive rebuild. Not something as a fan you want to hear.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that. Hell no.
You're losing Adam Thielen's not good. I know you like Jordan Addison, but he's a little bit undersized. Everybody kind of knew that.
Yeah.
The division isn't going to be. You're not going to win the division by 4 games anymore. It's going to be more competitive.
Right.
Schedule a little bit tougher. You're playing a first place schedule and you've lost a lot. So, getting that 13 wins, and then also, I believe they had like 10 games, like a league leading 10 or 11 games where they won by 3 points or less. So, a lot of one possession games,
right?
Went your way. That typically is an outlier. So.
And they
We'll
usually would lose
those. So that has nothing to. I like Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. I like him a hell of a lot more than a lot of people like him. I'm a big Kirk Cousins fan. But the Vikings, I think, are just going to take a small step back towards earth, and I think they're going to finish 9-8.
Yeah, that's very respectable. I have them finishing under your 9-8 record, just a little under, but nonetheless, got them going 7-10 as an overall record. So I'm going to take the under on the projected 8.5 wins, 4-4 at home, 3-6 on the road. I got them 4-8 going into the Week 13 bye, and late bye weeks are always my favorite, of course. And when you see with a team like the Vikings, they really might need it with the key departures that they've had. Get into those in a second. I think they're going to split the division as well. The division really is going to be a battle of mid, I feel like. At least, talking about the Packers previously, they have the best coach in there. And I feel like there's just kind of a what if with each of these teams. And I think that's why they'll all be able to split in the division. 6 games against playoff teams. I got them going 1-5 in these games. Only W is against the Bucks. They play the Chargers, Cincinnati, San Francisco, Kansas City, Philadelphia. Some of the best teams in the league, of course. But my biggest takeaway from this team is they lost more than they replenished with talent-wise. And the defense could literally stop no one last year. Second worst only to the Lions, who are their division rivals, and literally had the worst defense in the league last year. Like you said, I love Kirk. I believe Kirk will do what he usually does at quarterback. And I really, really, really like the Brian Flores hire and defensive coordinator. I think that could give them maybe more than the 7-9 wins that we're seeing them with. But then again, your defense can only get you so far. And I know he's going to work his ass off with this defense. They don't match up well, again, with a lot of teams that I think they play. And just speaking of key departures, when I said that they shipped out more than they brought in talent-wise, Dalvin Cook, Eric Kendricks, Patrick Peterson, Zadarius Smith, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Tomlinson.
Yeah.
Those are all very key players. If nothing, Cook and Thielen are the ones that stick out to you. And I know Thielen's not that guy that he was, but I've said it for years and I'll still stand on it. Adam Thielen is arguably the best wide receiver 2 in the league. He was pulling that one role when he had to. They draft Jettis. He takes off. They bring in Jordan Addison clearly to replace. So I will say clearly there they bring in Addison to replace Thielen, but Addison is a rookie. Thielen was a major veteran. But yes, I do have them going 7-10 overall. They lost a lot of people. I don't think they supplemented as well as they should have. Love the Brian Flores hire again. That's probably my favorite move from them. And now we'll get into the Detroit Lions, who you have winning the division here. 20th toughest schedule, projected at 9.5 wins.
And they were 9-8 last year, and they should have been 10-7. They lost that last game for whatever reason. It was such a wonky game. So I have them winning the division at 10-7 this year. I think, you lose Jamal Williams, but you draft Jahmyr Gibbs. They had a really good draft, probably the best draft in the entire NFL. But then you bring in on the defense, Mosley, Gardner Johnson. You bring in key players at key positions, specifically on defense, and the offense is still good. You have a stud at Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yep.
You have good players, and Jared Goff is that guy. Like, he's been good. So they had the top 5 offense in the league last year.
I don't
see why that's going to change. And then they addressed
elite.
Yeah, I mean, they were elite. The Lions offense. Think about saying that a Lions offense was elite last year. Their defense is the only thing they had to focus on, and they focused on it. And I expect the defense to be a hell of a lot better this year. So, yeah, I got them going 10-7, but I wouldn't be surprised if they won 11 games either. But they're going to win this division.
Yeah. Checking the NFL team total offense stats right here. Yeah, Detroit Lions had the 4th best offense in the league in terms of yard per games, 380. God damn, Kansas City with 414. Now, who had the most points? Detroit was 5th in the league with 26.6 points per game. So that's very impressive. To say that the Detroit Lions could have the coach of the year, they had an amazing draft, and their offense is elite, that's how you know the NFL is changing for the better. We're still in a stacked AFC versus a very lopsided NFC. Yeah. And hell, some people say Jared Goff is the 2nd best quarterback in the division. I'm not, or excuse me, in the NFC in the conference. Yeah,
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know about that.
Very respectable. I love what he's done in Detroit, almost better than I like what he did with the Rams because of the fact that he faced that adversity. Yes, Stafford really, clearly went there, won the Super Bowl. That was the reason that, that apparently Jared Goff was gotten rid of. But I still respect what he's done.
You could argue that Jared Goff is a top 5 quarterback in the NFC. Like, if you were to tell me if you could tell me he was some 4, 5, or 6, I would be okay with that. And
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, in the Lions, there 8 teams make the playoffs in each conference. You're not going to sit there and tell me that the Lions aren't one of the best 8 teams in the NFC. So, I'm not saying that they're
7. No.
7 teams make the playoffs. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, 4 divisions and the 3 wild cards.
Right.
But even still, even if you're that 8th team, like, you're going to be close. So, you're always going to be in that team picture. So, yeah, fine. 7 teams. You're not going to sit there and get to team 5 and 6 and 7 and tell me the Lions ain't one of them. So,
right. I mean, I would say if I'm just thinking about, top quarterbacks in the NFC, clearly Jaylon won. I'm sure you'd have Dak and possibly Derek Carr up there. And then, you got Geno, and probably Goff is coming in behind it. I'd probably put Goff over Geno, just because of more consistent play and what he's done overall as a player. Geno Smith had one big year. Not trying to super get into it, but I'm just agreeing that, yes, Jared Goff is, a little underrated, and that offense he's running over there in Detroit is pretty damn impressive. I do have them going 7-10 overall, 4-4 going into the Week 9 bye week. Let me back up a little bit. 6-2 at home, 1-8 on the road, so an overall record of 7-10. Going to take that under on the projected 9.5 wins. Again, 4-4 going into the Week 9 bye week, which is well placed in the middle of the season. Again, I love late season or middle of the season bye weeks. Get healthy, heal up, do what you got to do. I like the coaching of Dan Campbell here. I think they're going to split the division as well. They've got 8 games against playoff teams, but I got them going 2-6 in these games. Minnesota twice, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, the Chargers, Dallas, Baltimore, and Seattle. The only wins are one of the splits with Minnesota and then beating Tampa Bay as well. Can't remember if that's on the road or at home. But, the biggest thing is the Lions are having a ton of hype around them after the draft. And I feel like they made some decent additions with a lot of the folks, like you said, CGJ and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Cameron Sutton from the Steelers. You drafted Emmanuel Mosey. And for the worst rated defense in the NFL last year, literally dead last, you lose Jamal Williams and DJ Chark, but you do replenish some. So overall, with them being 7-10, with them going 9-8 last year, I believe, like you said, it's going to be a little bit of a tail off. Yes, they definitely have that capability to get better. But again, when I'm straight up looking at the schedule, when I'm seeing how the division is going to play out, I do have them going 7-10 overall. So crazy enough, not even to have a hot take, I have the Chicago Bears winning this division at 8-9.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be the battle of mid for sure. Vikings will get second place at 7-10. Maybe the Lions, Vikings and Lions are going to flip flop, of course, because they're both at 7-10, and then I have the Packers at 5-12. I think you might have had it the exact opposite, which is pretty funny. Of course, I know you had the Lions at the very top winning the division, but this is going to be an interesting division to watch, and this is why I like doing actual record predictions. So we can sit here and say, "Oh, they're going to win 14 games." Just look at the players and the coaching that they have, and I'm like, are you looking at who they're playing on the road? Are you looking at who they're playing in, at home? What part of the season is it in? Is it before or after the bye week? Like, that stuff matters to me because we know, like, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, they're probably going to look like shit for September and October. And then they're probably going to come around in November and December, maybe a little bit, and we'll see what happens as playoff pushes happen. But yes, there you have it. The 2023 NFC North record predictions on episode 35 of the NFL with AJL. Jerm, like I said, I'm going to let you plug yourself before you get out of here because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm debuting a new segment tonight, something that I'm looking to do weekly. Maybe you can or can't bear with it, but I really don't care because it's my show. No, I'm just kidding. Wouldn't be here without you guys. But Jerm, go ahead and plug yourself, man. Tell us what you got coming up next on Stuff About Sports. Give us a shot network, the legendary platform that you're building over there, bro.
Yeah, man. I am Jerm. I'm one half of Stuff About Sports with my co-host Bert. We are part of the Give Us a Shot network. We have a bunch of podcasts. We're just a podcast network of people who like to talk. We're for the people, by the people, all that good stuff.
Check them out.
www.giveusashot.network. Give Us a Shot network on Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff, and YouTube at Stuff About Sports. On Instagram, we'll have a show. We are also previewing. We've been previewing the different divisions.
Round tables.
Yeah, buddy. The round tables are great. The next up is the AFC West. So we'll do the AFC West, and we'll probably talk about some other things, but AFC West is the big thing. We'll do some fun stuff, but that's what's coming up, man.
Hell yeah, bro. Well, I appreciate you hopping in. Again, guys, get at them at Stuff About Sports at Give Us a Shot Network on all platforms. I've got their stuff in the description below. Jerm, I appreciate you hopping in for episode 35, man. And, you're always welcome, and I'll catch you next time, dude.
Thanks, brother. Have a good night,
man. Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am debuting a segment tonight. You see the hat coming on. Spectators of the NFL with AJL and any of y'all that are with Who Dat Nation, welcome to the debut of the Who Dat Corner, exclusively seen and produced and delivered here on the NFL with AJL, starting on episode 35. As you guys know, I'm a diehard Saints fan. Every episode, you see the gear that I've got. You see the stuff in the background. I've even got the Drew Brees Funko Pop. I've even got a butchered Super Bowl 50 when I went to New Orleans. Michael Darby, if you see this, you know what I'm talking about. But I wanted to get something for us winning the Super Bowl back in, God, I don't even know the exact number, XLIV, whatever that is. I'm a major fan, though. You guys know that. And every week I want to bring you a segment on the Saints themselves, show you some of my inner fandom, show you the analysis of how I really check into my team. And let's go ahead and get into it. As we know, the New Orleans Saints did have that preseason showing against the Kansas City Chiefs. They do come out. And honestly, they looked great. I loved to see Derek Carr on that first drive. The offensive rhythm so feels back. Saints scored on their first 3 offensive drives, 12 plays, 85 yards with Derek Carr on the opening drive. And damn, did it look so good to see a veteran back there. No more Jameis Winston, no more Ian Book, no more Taysom Hill, no more Trevor Siemian, no more Andy Dalton. That was hard as hell to watch. Who Dats, you already know what I'm talking about. Fans of the Who Dat Nation, Saints fans out there, you know how tough it was to watch Drew Brees get out of there, to watch Jameis have to come in. And yes, Jameis does go 5-2 before he gets hurt. And we can always sit here and wonder what if. And yes, when Derek Carr did get signed to the Saints, I didn't necessarily like the contract. I was a little hard on him about how he had his worst career. But Josh McDaniels had a horrible coaching job. And maybe it's not much better over here with Dennis Allen. Is realistically, I might want him out of here after this season. But we'll see what happens. I love Derek Carr's first drive. The starters look great. The offensive rhythm, at least with the first team, guys, players, starters, definitely looked great. Jameis Winston was solid with 11 of 13, almost 100 yards and a touchdown, led the second and third scoring drives of the day. I felt like he could have hit Taysom Hill on one of those blitzes that we had in the game, but he did well nonetheless, moving in those dirty pockets as the O-line really, really did let him down. Jake Haener completed 10 of 17 passes, 105 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He threw incomplete, though, on 4 out of 5 third down drives in the second half, which really led to the Saints offense stalling out, and the Chiefs eventually being able to come back with a 24 unanswered and take the lead. Jake Haener, was eventually able to lead a touchdown drive that got the Saints within one score, which was really nice to see. We understand the story of Jake Haener. We know that when he came out of college, it was really because he was a Saints fan. He was at Fresno State, I believe, was it Fresno State? Did Derek Carr go to Fresno State? I can't remember nonetheless, but we know that some of his background and what he had been through and how he had played was a big reason why, Dennis Allen wanted to bring him in, why Dennis Allen actually wanted to draft him. He did play okay despite the interception. I felt like he threw the ball with a little bit of conviction, and you can kind of see that he has that confidence in himself. Some people are shitting on Jake Haener. Some people are praising Jake Haener. We know guys like Nick Underhill from New Orleans Football were really leaking out of training camp that he was looking great. People were really high on him. I still want Derek to be QB1. We all know that Derek is QB1. If Jameis does get the QB2 spot, great. I don't believe Jake Haener should really see the field like that. And, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, I hope he doesn't due to any stipulation, especially not injury of the guys that are in front of him. Talk about some standout rookies and standout players from this game, though. Jawan Johnson with some nice catches. Michael Thomas had a nice snag from Derek Carr. Alvin Kamara looked great, running through the line. Jameis was solid again, 11 of 13, almost 100 yards, a touchdown, second and third scoring drives that he led of the day. I wanted to see more out of Brian Bresee and Isaiah Foskey. I'm really excited about the both of them. I feel like more Foskey than Bresee, but we'll see how things shake out as it goes through the year. And the involvement, I wanted it to be more, but of course it was preseason. It was week one. We saw Peyton Turner make some plays out there, which was good to see because really Peyton Turner is a bust in my opinion. Who dats? Get in the comments, let you know what we think. A.T. freaking Perry. As AFR Saints says, a thief in the freaking night. 6 targets, 6 catches, 70 yards, and a physical touchdown that Jameis Winston delivered to him. And you could tell that literally Jameis Winston's favorite target that day was A.T. Perry. He absolutely loved throwing it to him, no doubt. Now, the Saints O-line depth, we saw that as, the game got going on. It showed to be a little shallow once we got into the rotations. Jameis was dealing with a lot of dirty, muddy pockets, and this has to be a staple if we want to be anything like we used to be offensively. We know that as Saints fans, watching how Drew Brees, even if he was on the short throws and the timing in his career, the reason that the Saints were able to establish a run game with a 1-2 punch, have a prolific offense, was because of that staple of the offensive line. And we got to get more depth with that. I know Pete's trying to come back through, hated losing Teron Armstead to the Dolphins. We know Ramczyk is that guy there. And he's really the only one I trust the most out of, taking snaps from possibly any position, I guess, on that offensive line. Roby and Alontae Taylor, they got beat quite a bit. They got beat quite a bit in this game on the back end, and they're going to need to clean that up as well, no doubt. Ellis Merriweather, what a guy. What an interview. Seems like he can possibly just glide when he gets the football. He seems like he could be special. He's very, very talented, had some touches, but more than anything, just a great attitude. We love to see that out of him. Jamal Williams might have only had 9 carries for 28 yards, but he looked like the bell cow back, and he was fighting for those damn yards, which is exactly what we need to have that punch with Alvin Kamara. Overall, the Saints in week 1 of the preseason, I was very pleased. And again, it goes back to that first drive with the starters. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, we're back to what we used to be. 1 drive, Super Bowl. No, absolutely not. We've lived through what the Saints have went through the last few seasons. And ultimately, it just feels so good to have a veteran back in there. I mean, when he slung that touchdown pass to Keith Kirkwood, just a little flick of the wrist, I was like, man, I miss seeing that. Like, it just didn't feel that natural for Trevor Siemian or Andy Dalton or, Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, because it wasn't. And I'm not going out here saying Derek Carr is going to have, a 4,700-yard year and 38 touchdowns and 12 picks. No. But with the Saints winning 12 games this year, like I predicted, maybe 11 now that we're going to possibly drop the opener because Kamara is suspended, I still love what I saw from Derek Carr. And if that is any indication what he's going to be like in New Orleans, go ahead and bring it on. Go ahead and bring it on because I'm here for it. Now, again, I'm not trying to overreact. Just looking at week 1 of the preseason. I want to talk about how Shaheed's injury impact could really fare out with this team. We saw last year Rashid Shaheed, undrafted, I want to say, 2 touches, 2 touchdowns. ends up with over 400 yards receiving on the year. We know that he can get in space. We know that he can be a playmaker, can be used in different types of positions. And with Derek Carr looking so smooth in the offense early on, knowing that Rashid Shaheed was one of our better weapons last year, I'd love to see him mesh well next to a Chris Olave. I'd love for Michael Thomas to stay healthy this entire year and make Rashid Shaheed that Traquan Smith, that Keith Kirkwood, that Tommy Lee Lewis, that we had in the past, where they're just, slightly plugging in there, giving them dimes here and there. But he can easily be more than that. He can be a focal point of a set of an offense, or he can be a focal point of a drive if he needs to be, because he showed us he can be. I want the injury to be better for him, to be able to come back. I don't know the absolute latest on it, but I do know that he is, working through it. The Saints would definitely like to have him back for week 1, as I do believe he is one of the better players on the team. Cameron Jordan extended. Absolutely love that. Very well deserved. All-time Saints sack leader, or getting close to it, if I'm not mistaken. I don't, again, know that off the top of my head, but I know he's definitely in that vicinity, in that conversation. Yes, he is on the other side of 30 that you don't necessarily want to see, but Cam Jordan is a top, defensive end in this league. He likes to play in the types of sets that the Saints really set him up for, and he does well in those sets. He's still one of those captains of the defense, next to a Demario Davis, next to a Marshawn Lattimore. He's still one of the top players on the team. He's still one of the top players on the defense, and what he's done year in and year out, it's going to be hard to see Cam Jordan go. I love the fact that he got extended. That's my guy right there. I love, love, love how athletic he's still looking, kind of doing the backflip kip up in the preseason week 1 game. Got to give my flowers to Cam Jordan, and he's been a guy who has been riding with us through and through. Couple more things here before we actually get out of episode 35 of the NFL with AJL. Again, this is the Who Dat Corner debut, exclusively delivered on the NFL with AJL podcast. Darrell Williams was signed for running back depth, which is good. He's never been anything great, anything special. We saw him used a little bit in Kansas City's offense, and we know that he's had his time in the NFL. I think he's just going to be another piece to plug in, because Kamara, Jamal Williams, and more than likely Kendre Miller are going to be these featured backs here. Darrell Williams, however you want to say it there. He's going to get some touches and some looks, but I don't think it's going to be anything major. I want to talk about the Jaylon Smith signing. We bring in Jaylon Smith after missing out on Anthony Barr, and we had to add another linebacker to this crew. Is it Arthur? Anthony? Andrew? I think it's Andrew Dowell, out for the season with a torn ACL. Pete Warner has yet to play a full season in 2 years, which, again, love Pete Warner out of Ohio State. What is he actually going to be in his third full year, though? Demario Davis is great, but we need more, and he is aging. He is on that other side of 30 years old. He's still elite, still fantastic, still a captain, still very knowledgeable in the game, one of the best at his position. Zach Bond has been disappointing thus far. He really shouldn't be an inside linebacker. He should really try to move outside, and it's okay. It was really a miss. It's fine. The Saints draft great most of the time. Linebackers are kind of hard to hit. I mean, for Christ's sake, we signed Demario Davis. I think, was he was a free agent, one of the best free agent signings we've ever had, and he's a linebacker position. I hated to lose Caden Ellis. He was great. But just think about Jaylon Smith actually coming in. He was very productive last year with the Giants. Actually, when he was hopping around the league, I want to say he was an unrestricted, or he just was a free agent, came in to work out for the Giants and actually won the linebacker spot. Even started in a playoff game for the New York Giants, and very productive again last year with the Giants. Had a solid career, very, very solid career with the Dallas Cowboys before starting only 10 games in 2021 for those with Dallas, before ultimately getting let go because Micah Parsons was drafted, clearly a legend in the making. Talked about him earlier in the show as being an actual defensive player of the year. We know he's going to get his money. So what can you say, right? But when you go and look at Jaylon Smith, because he was a guy that was one of the top players in the country, loved what he did in his college days, but his rookie season, I want to say, was delayed. They were like, hey, take your time. We know you've got an injury. You're good. You're good. Take your time. Red shirt, because clearly that's what you're going to do, and then come back into the league. 2017, plays in all 16 games, 81 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. 2018, plays in all 16 and starts all 16, 121 tackles, 82 solo tackles, 6 tackles for loss. 2019, 142 tackles, starts all 16 and plays all 16, 6 tackles for loss again. 2020, he made the Pro Bowl in 2019, by the way. 2020 with Dallas still. Starts all 16, plays all 16, even more tackles with 154. So every year, his combined tackles, his solo tackles just about, his assisted tackles just about, and his tackles for loss, and almost his quarterback hits went up every single year. Micah Parsons get drafted clearly. He plays 4 games for Dallas, 2 games for Green Bay, 4 games for the New York Giants, ends up winning that Giants starting job and has another 88 tackles this year, which was, pretty similar, to what he had in his rookie year. And I get it. I'm looking at numbers from 18, 19, 20. But here's my thing. We know Dennis Allen is a defensive coach. We know that we've had the likes of Alex Anzalone. We've had the likes of Caden Ellis. We know what Demario Davis has done. Oh God, who was that linebacker that we lost that was very similar to Anzalone? Damn it. I know Quan Alexander was decent as well. I got to look this up. Saints linebackers over the years. He was another white guy that really, really reminded me of, what's it called? It was another linebacker that really, really reminded me of, Alex Anzalone. I'm looking at their past starting lineups right now. AJ Klein. If we get anything like we did out of AJ Klein, out of, what's it called? When did he actually leave? Out of Alex Anzalone, how we have out of Demario Davis, how we did out of Caden Ellis, how, Pete Werner has looked good. He just needs to stay healthy. If we get any sort of coaching, which seems like we can, especially out of the linebacker position, again, look at what Demario's done. Look at what Caden Ellis has done. If we can get that put into Jaylon Smith, he's not too many years removed from a Pro Bowl, ladies and gentlemen. I believe if Micah Parsons, which this is a big anomaly, if Micah Parsons doesn't get drafted to the Cowboys, he can still be one of the top linebackers in the league like he was when he played with Dallas. Very, very productive. I'm not saying he's going to be elite. I'm not saying he's going to be, a top player for us, even though he could be, or a top player at his position, even though he could be, and he has shown it in the past. I'm very excited for Jaylon Smith because, again, we needed linebacker depth, like literally. Dow was out for the season with a torn ACL. Pete Werner has yet to play a full season in 2 years. We know Demario Davis is great. He's elite. He's one of the best at his position. He's old. Zach Bond, he's a whiff. Speaking of whiffs, like you don't want to continue to go through those possibly with the same position. So I have no problem with them signing Jaylon Smith. Clearly, Anthony Barr was supposed to come in. He doesn't. That's okay. We don't like Kareem Hunt either. That's totally okay. Not really here to do preseason predictions. I just know I'd like to see the starters maybe out there a little more. I believe we're going to see a good bit of them. Let me see the Carrs, the Camaras, the Thomases. Let me see the first team reps. Let me see the starters from the offense and the defense. But nonetheless, I was excited about preseason week 1. Again, it felt so damn good to see Derek Carr out there like that. I loved what A.T. Perry showed us. And that was officially the debut of the Who Dat Corner on the NFL with AJL. I'm going to go ahead and hit this intro music, and we're going to get out of here. Episode 35 of the NFL with AJL, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying tuned if you did for the Who Dat Corner. I'm looking to do, again, a weekly segment on the New Orleans Saints. You guys know clearly with all the gear that I'm a major fan. Again, we chopped it up about Anthony Richardson and Brock Purdy being named QB1, the 2024 NFL Award predictions. So much on the show tonight, guys. We did the NFC North predictions. We did Nick Bosa not having a deal. Shannon Sharpe is with First Take and on ESPN. This podcast will be uploaded and stamped soon for you guys. I greatly appreciate everyone that comes through every single week. If you're still watching, please make sure to like and share the stream wherever you're at. Subscribe on YouTube, which most of you do. And as always, the QR code in the corner of the screen will give you every bit of podcast and social media content at the NFL with AJL on all social media platforms and podcast platforms. We're on YouTube, all social platforms again, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your shows. NFL season's kicking back up. We got about 3 weeks, Chiefs at Lions. And y'all remember what happened the last time that Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff played in a regular season game. It was the highest scoring game in NFL history, if I'm not mistaken. We'll see y'all soon on episode 36, the NFL with AJL.